Welcome to Built with Purpose. I am Chris Fey, and this is the show where vision meets execution and leadership leaves a legacy. From design studios to innovation hubs and product lines to skylines, we meet the people building more than great companies. They're creating culture, driving impact, and shaping what's next. These are the stories and strategies behind how the world gets built with purpose. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to Built with Purpose. I'm Chris Fey. Today is another episode of Between the Builds, a chance for us to reflect back on our guest last week and to pull out kind of a key leadership lesson that I think each of us can take home. So last week we had a great conversation with a friend of mine, a gentleman named Burton Hackney. He is the leader and president and CEO of JORIS, General Contractors in Texas. They are one of Texas's largest general contractors, and I can tell you, just an awesome conversation, man. Like when you meet with somebody and you just jive with them because they're really building an amazing company focused on values and connection and leadership. Like, it was an extremely, extremely fun conversation. So I just really thank Burton for hopping on the horn. And, as I was reflecting back on our conversation with Burton, it brought back two themes that I wanted to just kind of talk about today on Between the Builds. Number one is making sure you know what sort of company you're trying to build, or team or organization, whatever it is you're trying to build in a leadership role. What sort of company or team or organization are you trying to build? And then how much of your time, how are you as the leader spending a disproportionate share of your time driving what is most important? So we think back to Burton's conversation last week. I mean, there's lots of ways that they could grow. Huge general contractor. And he said their vision, what they want to be, is they want to be one of the most admired companies in Texas. Okay, so great. He could have said, "Hey, we want to expand across to the east. We want to be the biggest contractor in Texas. We might want to, be the largest industrial contractor." But they just said, "Look, we want to be the most admired general contractor, or really most admired company in Texas." And the reality is, there's lots of companies that can construct and build buildings and projects, just very similar in any of your fields. If you're in the tech space, if you're, you could be an attorney, you could be in sales. The reality is, you're not the only person doing that in the world. So it's so important to really identify what is your unique value proposition. What is it that you, as a team or an individual or an organization, do differently that are going to set yourself apart? And so I loved about the Burton conversations, we talked about this most admired company in Texas. And, really for Burton, the conversation comes down to, if you create an amazing company that people want to be a part of, inherently, that's going to enable you to get some of the very best people inside of the organization. It means you're going to grow those individuals. It means those individuals are going to be extra happy in their career, right? You're going to get the best and brightest. And ultimately, what ends up happening when you surround yourself in an organization or a team with really, really strong people, and very bright people, and very motivated people, and aligned people that are aligned to what you're trying to do in the organization, what do you believe is the number one outcome that comes from that? And I would say, honestly, your company wins and your customers win. If you have great people inside of your organization that are thrilled to be there and they want to see the company grow, they are going to do everything in their power to ultimately best serve your customers, right? How many times have you talked to somebody and they're selling to you or servicing you, and you just can realize that they really just don't like their job? You're talking to that individual, and whether it's the things they're saying or the way they're carrying themselves, you're just like, man, that dude just does not like his job. How motivated are you to do more business with that company? Versus, when have you interacted with somebody where you feel the love? Like, you're like, man, that person loves their job. And because I see they love their job, they must be doing something right in their organization. And if they're doing something right in their organization, that means they're probably going to better serve me as the customer. So super excited, motivated, happy employees that are aligned with where you're going as a company are going to, by nature, better serve your customers. And that's what Burton talked about. He's like, look, we want to be the most admired company in Texas. We want to surround ourselves with great people. We want to encourage and inspire and lead those individuals. We want to have this amazing culture inside of our business. And if we do those things, I know that this team of people will serve the customer base far into the future. So it was a really, really awesome conversation that we had about where your North Star is, right? And understanding what sort of company you want to build, or team or organization that you want to build, and why. So the second thing we started talking about, as we were kind of validating this whole conversation of the value of creating a great company with culture and connection, is what is the role of the leader in building a great culture? Well, it's probably one of the most important things that you can do. So in Burton's case, they want to be one of the most admired companies in Texas. So what's Burton's number one job? It's to make sure that they become one of the most admired companies in Texas. It's the leader's job, core focus, to make sure that they are driving that vision forward. If Burton said, well, hey, look, we want to be one of the most admired companies in Texas, but I'm going to really hone in and focus my time and attention on, building this commercial development arm and maximizing profitability. He's got a vision for one thing and spending his time doing the other. And so what we reflect back on is us as leaders. We get pulled in so many different directions. We just do. And I can tell you right now, just being very psychologically safe as I would be for my team, like I'm at a time in my life and I'm at a time in my career where I'm about maxed out of capacity. I'm trying to do too many things at one time. And I love it. For me, like I love the chase. I love being involved in a lot of things. I love the diversity of projects and time, but it's not the best way to move, my initiatives forward. And so I sit there and you think about, well, I need to be spending my time on the most important things that are out there. So there were two books that I just wanted to reference for today. One is called The One Thing. Really, really great book by Gary Keller, written about what's the one thing that you can do such that everything else becomes less important or unnecessary. That's called the focusing question. It helps you really identify, where do I need to be spending my time such that I'm progressing the most important things forward at the most rapid rate. And then the other one that I was thinking about was the unique ability. So unique ability, based on this concept by Dan Sullivan, you can look at like Eisenhower planning blocks, you can look at unique ability, but basically it helps you bucket your time to say, what am I really good at? Or what do I really need to be focused on? And then how much of my time am I spending focusing on my unique ability or focusing on my one thing? So Bert and I were talking about that leaders, like we just end up getting pulled into meetings and conversations and all these sorts of things that can fragment our time. But if we come back as a leader and we say, what am I trying to do? All right, I'm Burton. I want to build the most admired company in Texas. What do I need to be doing? How much of my time do I need to be spending creating that sort of culture and environment? And I would say it's definitely more than half. Okay, well, cool. So we could say 50 to 60% of my time needs to be spent on that one thing, on building that most admired company in Texas. Okay, so that means if I'm working, call it 50 hours a week, I probably need to be spending 25 to 30 hours of my time driving that initiative. So what does that mean? Well, if I'm trying to build an admired company, that means I need to be connecting with our teams, kind of discussing the vision and the mission, driving our culture, opening up lines of communication, building leadership teams, building all those things. So it's very easy. And that's really what the Unique Ability Program has you do, is say, what am I best at and where do I need to spend the most time? How much of my time each week should I be spending towards that most important thing? And then holding yourself accountable to actually executing on that plan on a weekly basis. So, in that space, if we do a retrospective, and that's one of the best ways to look at your time. Okay. So you kind of go through this process, you go through this procedure, you identify, all right, I want to spend a disproportionate share of my time focusing on that most important thing, right? Where I'm best, where we should be serving ourselves as a company. And then the best thing that you can do is go back and look at the last 4 weeks of your time and see if you're aligning with where you need to be going. And I guarantee what you'll find is you're not spending enough time as a leader focusing on the most important things that you need to be doing driving the company. I did this. I went back and looked at my time, and I'm sitting in financial meetings. I'm sitting in, some detailed planning meetings. I'm, obviously meeting with customers and you're doing things that are very important to the business. I'm not devaluing these things in the business. But for me, was I spending the bulk of my time on the most important tasks to move my organization forward? In retrospective, typically the answer is no. So kind of the key takeaway today, as I was thinking about for between the builds, is, twofold. One, do you know what sort of organization you're trying to build? What is your unique value proposition that you're bringing to market? That's one. Number two, you as the leader need to be spending a disproportionate share of your time moving that initiative forward. And you need to identify what are all the things that I need to be doing to support that vision and mission of where I want to take this team or this organization or this company. And then you need to schedule your time so that at least 50%, if not more of your time, is focused on exclusively working on those areas and eradicating anything that will fragment you or pull you away. And one of the best quotes and the one thing that I love is, when you do this, chaos will sometimes ensue. And what does that mean? Well, when you turn your focus and energy and effort on the most important things that are going to move your organization forward, it means that you're going to spend less time on some of the other items that won't be moving yourself forward. And you have to be okay. You have to be disciplined about letting some of those things go, right? Delegating them, not doing them, pushing them aside so that you can spend that disproportionate share on what is most important. And that's one of the hardest things that we do as leaders, because it's hard for us to think about dropping the ball. It's hard for me to think about not answering every email or not talking to every individual or connecting with every vendor or connecting with every customer. But it's just not feasible. If I do all of those things, I will not be spending the bulk of my time on what matters and what is most important. So this is an awesome lesson, not only for our businesses, but an awesome lesson for our time as individuals, for us as humans. What's most important for me as a human? And am I spending a disproportionate share of my time focusing on the one thing? So I'm looking forward to upcoming conversations. We've got some great guests coming around the corner. We're coming into the end of 2025, really prepping for 2026. I'm super excited about where Built with Purpose is going to go next year. I really appreciate everything that you all have done to support this initiative and getting it off the ground. I hope it's been adding value to you all. I'm certainly having a lot of fun. That's going to be one of the key areas that I'm going to be focusing my time next year, is just getting these messages out, getting these teams and these stories and these people out to you all so that you can hopefully help listen and learn and improve. So with that, I hope you all have an amazing holiday season. Look out for next week's Built with Purpose episode. And with that, let's keep building with purpose. See ya. Okay, thanks for joining me on Built with Purpose. If you have enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps more bold leaders find the show. For resources and show notes, visit our website and connect with me, Chris Fey, on LinkedIn. Until next time, keep building great companies, cultures, and legacies with purpose.